I have likely finished over 1,000 games in my 40-year life, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. Looking to the future, 2024 is looking like another banger year following up an incredibly difficult act that was 2023. These are, in no particular order, my most anticipated games of 2024. Note that while this is not every game I'm looking forward to next year, these are the ones I could narrow down when trying to make a top 10 list. These are in no particular order, but you'll be able to tell which I'm most excited about. The Mana series is one that's been running since my own childhood, and we have a sticky relationship. If you've been on my channel or Discord, you'll know that I have a very large distaste for RPGs with AI-controlled party members. The Mana series more or less spearheaded this trope, and to this day it barricades me out of being able to play games that, quite frankly, likely have amazing stories that I would thoroughly enjoy, if I could get past the combat. The last Mana game we got was back in 2020 as Trials of Mana, which was quite frankly an amazing remake of Seiken Densetsu 3 or Mana 3 that we never got in America. The game, while it does have AI party members, is clean. The mixture of spellcasting and the overall feel of combat absolutely ensured that Mana would get at least one more game, and here we are. While from the few shots we have seen of the game shows it keeps some of the what I call MMO elements, such as danger zones that indicate attacks from enemies so you don't stand in the stupid, it also looks like it continues the multi-character party system. My greatest hope and desire from this game is that it has online multiplayer. At the very least, it looks like it will have some form of multiplayer, but one can only dream. We'll find out later this year on basically all platforms. Next up is Metaphor Re Fantazio. This was announced late in 2023 at the Game Awards, and at first I was not too excited about it. At a glance, it looked like, you guessed it, an action RPG with AI-controlled party members. But after a little research, I discovered that it is in fact a turn-based RPG with some fairly interesting philosophies and elements behind its design. First off, as the announcement trailer subtly hints, the game is made by many of the same people who made Shin Megami Tensei 3, Nocturne, and Personas 3 through 5. I can honestly say I trust this team with my life, or at least I've trusted them with over 400 hours of it. I have zero doubt that we will get an epic story full of valuable life lessons and a combat system that will make us feel incredibly powerful. Just listen to what director Katsura Hashin has to say about how they develop both the turn-based combat system and the action-based portion.
As for what kind of game we are making this time, as creators involved in Persona, naturally we have included command battles, which you might say is our specialty, or our expertise. I wouldn't exactly call them a waste of time, but often battles with low-level opponents that you already know how to beat can at times feel like a hassle. We would like players to spend their time on the more interesting aspects like these. In order to achieve this, we decided to adopt a new battle system where we have the command battles as the base, but on top of that, we've incorporated a system where you're able to defeat enemies on the field directly if you determine that they are weaker than you. It's not a separate two-part system where some enemies can only be fought in command battles or some must be defeated with action. We were very particular about letting the player make that determination and giving players the option to choose at all times.
It's pretty ambitious, and I cannot wait to see how that pans out, so long as you aren't exclusively a Switch gamer, in which case you may miss out. Little Nightmares is one of those games that gets talked about a lot while it's relevant, but fades into obscurity between titles. Despite that, the team over at Supermassive generally delivers dark, engaging stories that, while they won't leave you with nightmares of your own, will absolutely leave you feeling uneasy and regretting some of your decisions. If you have missed them somehow, Little Nightmares are these cute little macabre platformers where you play as a tiny child in a world of giants with somewhat mysterious powers. They are very much about getting from point A to point B and finding collectibles while trying not to get caught, as you generally don't have a way to fight off foes due to their sheer comparative size. With incredibly dark imagery and a well-written story that does not fully reveal itself until the credits are ready to roll, Little Nightmares is always ripe for theorizing and guesswork, but rarely will you get it right until you've seen everything with your own two eyes. I highly recommend playing the first two games, as they hold up incredibly well. Little Nightmares 3 will be playable on whatever your heart desires, except probably your toaster. It's not Doom. INAZUMA 11 exists? Until this point, it's been totally outside of my radar. I'm not even totally sure what it is. I know there are many games in the franchise, and as best I can tell from the videos I've seen, it's like a turn-based RPG soccer game with a story. I don't want to spoil myself too much in this game, so I won't look into it too terribly deep, but I absolutely want to have this on my completed games list come the end of the year. The graphics are silly, and the gameplay reminds me of 2001 Shaolin Soccer. I just want to put my hands on this thing to see if it's as fun and ridiculous as it looks. It will be playable on everything except seemingly Xbox. Our first big excitement on the list comes from Eiyuden Chronicles, 100 Heroes, which is effectively Suikoden 6. So as I talk about it, you can follow along with my references. As a long-time gamer, I've played more RPGs than you can imagine. Of those were Suikodens 1, 2, 4, and 5. While I was not a huge fan of 4 and outright skipped 3, the first few games are easily on my top 50 RPGs of all time, and 5 is probably higher on the list than them. As the story tends to go, you play as Protag-kun, and through various atrocities, it becomes your job to save the world from an evil empire through not peace, but all-out war. What sets the Suikoden franchise apart, and thus 100 Heroes, is the sheer scale of the game. The franchise may as well be made in Texas because everything is bigger. First off, you generally get to recruit 108 different people for your city and army. This number is gigantic, and while not every member you recruit will be combat viable, a good 70% of them usually are, while others are shopkeepers and that sort of thing. What makes this even crazier is that most characters have team-up skills with others. Generally, there's not only dual attacks, but in some cases triple and even combinations of 6 characters who can team up together. The system may somewhat remind you of Chrono Cross, albeit on a much larger scale. In addition to the already large turn-based battles, all-out war sometimes breaks out and you have to control entire armies on large maps that feel like they could be an entirely different game. These large battles usually culminate in 1v1 face-offs between the generals to see which side comes out on top. In addition to all these factors, gameplay footage shows somehow you can use terrain during battles, which adds another incredibly cool layer of depth. In the footage, the 4 outer characters take cover while 2 inner characters have nowhere to hide and thus have to tank the damage. Party setup always played a factor as there's long-range, mid-range, and short-range characters, but it seems like now there'll be numerical positions in the party that matters too. I absolutely cannot wait to sink my teeth into this game that some of us have been waiting for since 2006. Look for it in February on all consoles as well as PC. I'm not even sure what to say about Princess Peach Showtime to sell it on you. While we have a lot of gameplay clips to look at, nothing is overtly stated. We know there's a cooking stage, we know there's a mystery stage where you're like a detective, and we know about the fencing and the kung fu, but what does it all mean? Will there be increasing difficulties like in FNAF Help 1 and 2? Will the games be separate instances or somehow linked together? Are there more that we haven't even seen? It's all a mystery. But this overly cute game starring the beloved Princess Peach will surely spark joy in many players this year, even if only as a detour between meteor games. As you may have guessed, Princess Peach Showtime will absolutely be a Switch exclusive, probably until the end of time itself. Much like League of Legends, nobody likes mobile games. Even the people who have put thousands of hours and dollars into them, which I absolutely definitely can in no way relate to, don't like them. Sure, they may like the artwork, even the story, but the gameplay loop itself is almost always dog shit. Anytime you see free-to-play, you can be assured that you'll spend far more than retail price on the game. And yet, what if a company took their beloved mobile IP that has no chance for long-term support, all those amazingly drawn characters and their skill sets, and made real video games out of them? Well, Granblue Fantasy attempted to answer that question a few years ago with Granblue Fantasy Versus, and it went okay-ish. But then, they tried again in 2023 with Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising, which is a fighting game I've already sunk dozens of hours into. The game is beautiful and is crafted with absolute competency. But now, let's rewind to a wish. A wish that all these stinky action RPGs with AI party members like Tales and Star Ocean had online multiplayer available. What if that wish was granted using existing IPs with lores and characters that are already beloved to pull from? Then, my friends, we get Granblue Fantasy Relink. This is a game that was announced in like 2016 and then just vanished. Apparently they kept making it though. And now we have this, well, this. Just look at it. It's like a Musuo style game, which is like Dynasty Warriors or Hyrule Warriors style for those that don't know. Made sweet love to an MMO, and then that child played Final Fantasy Strangers of Paradise and said, what if this were a good game? Multiple characters to choose from, an epic storyline, loot collecting, giant boss battles, high-flying moves, and online multiplayer. This game is going to be solid, goddamn gold. It's a must-play for anyone with friends. It will only be available for PS4, PS5, and PC though, so now's a great time to point and laugh at your Xbox loyalist friends. Or don't, that's mean. Gaming computers are expensive, but holy shit, we're in for a treat. There's no getting off this hype train we're on as Final Fantasy VII Rebirth crashes through Coral and everything else this February. While I feel no need to truly talk about this game, I'm gonna. Why? Because I'm a fanboy, that's why. You see, as a general rule, I don't replay games. There's far too many video games, both past, present, and future, to play, and replaying them can take dozens of hours, especially having a full-time job and, well, sitting here typing this long-ass script. Free time for gaming is at a premium, so when I tell you I beat Final Fantasy VII at least 4 times in my life, as well as Remake twice, and integrate DLC, you know I mean business. I don't want to go too deep into spoiler territory, but there's little doubt in my mind that this will be Game of the Year material. Yes, it does fall into my I hate AI party members category, but it gets a pass for being literally Final Fantasy VII. With an unknown story that developers keep pretending won't deviate from the original much, fool us once, shame on us, a relationship building system, the all-coveted team-up attacks, materia and gear-defined skill trees, and of course those beautiful graphics and pseudo-open worlds. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Remake are not the remakes we wanted, but they are certainly what we needed. The only bad thing about Rebirth is how absolutely stacked February already is, and we still don't even have a full release schedule. Oh, and the fact that it's a PS5 exclusive for at least 6 months, if not a year or more. Sorry everyone else, try to avoid spoilers in the meantime, or watch me stream it. Earlier in the video, I mentioned I trusted the creators of Metaphor Re Fantazio with my life, and I have also stated that I don't typically like replaying games. Well, welcome to this part of the conversation.
I will. Can it be? It looks like you really do have a special power.
You take on the role of our leader, and you're stronger than anyone else in your own right. That's more than just being talented.
Persona 3 Reloaded is a remake of, you guessed it, Persona 3. While Shin Megami Tensei 3 was my introduction to the franchise, Persona 3 was the game that hogtied me and ensured that I will play every single SMT and Persona-related game ever made, which I have maintained to this day. They are incredible. And now you're telling me I get to play it again with updated everythings? Much like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the only downside that I can see is that February is packed to the brim with amazing games, and getting through Persona 3's 100 plus hours of gameplay in 26 days, while also playing copious sessions of Granblue Fantasy Relink in time for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is going to be one of my greatest challenges. Also, Lotus Juice.
Every man's gotta fight the fear. I'm the first to admit a shit. Thoughts provoke the new era. Become a bit terror, but my only rebel is my shadow. Rewind the pain back if there's my own error. Get low to the ground, it's getting better like I told you before. Double up a dead road cheddar. L to the J, say stay lace. Here's my call, me with a flush, and I'm the ace.
You know what Hades is, right? Amazing roguelike game set in the Greek underworld. Yeah, that game was good. It doesn't quite fit my own personal niche, as by design you have to play it over and over and over and over and over again. That's the whole point. It's a roguelike. You beat the game, get some story, beat the game again, get some more story. Some people love this. Me, though, not too big of a fan. That said, even for a one and done, Hades was absolutely incredible. While I was not into going through the game repeatedly to get the full context of the story and gameplay, I will say that up until I actually defeated Hades, I had a blast. I also look forward to Hades 2, which we can expect to not deviate too terribly much from the award-winning formula, but should still offer plenty of new fun things to warrant revisiting the world in order to take down the god of time himself, Kronos. No release date has been announced, but rest assured, if you have any kind of gaming device, you'll probably have access to Hades 2 when it does finally release. Palworld. What can be said about Palworld? I love monster collecting RPGs. At first glance, you might think, oh, it's a Pokemon clone. At second glance, you may notice the Totoro with a machine gun and you might think, well, that's weird. Then you might see the protagonist flying on a bird-like Pokemon blasting cute monsters with a rocket launcher, and then you might be putting down the crack pipe. But wait, you don't do crack. That's the Palworld experience. If this game is even half of what it promises, it will be talked about for generations to come. It claims to have survival elements, crafting, multiplayer, big bosses, a deep story, all while still being co-op with up to 32 players on a designated server. I have no idea how this is going to pan out. It sounds like a fever dream, and it is. The Steam site officially declares a release date of January, so we will see, but rest assured I will be firmly on the Palworld wagon at some point next year with my friends as we argue over whether or not it's ethically okay to enslave pals to create weaponry of mass war. I absolutely cannot escape this damn genre. Coming in 2024 is the hotly anticipated sequel, Dragon's Dogma 2. Here's the thing. Dragon's Dogma 1 was, for the most part, amazing. Yes, I despise AI-controlled party members. No, I won't stop saying it. In most games, either the AI doesn't do enough, like Final Fantasy VII Remake, or it does way too much, like Xenoblade Chronicles 3. There's rarely a middle ground, but Dragon's Dogma kinda found it. In Dragon's Dogma 2, you once again play as an Arisen, basically a person whose heart was stolen by a dragon. In your adventures, you can recruit pawns, which are effectively other players as AI party members. While the story of Dragon's Dogma was great, the real draw was the combat. The only thing it can be compared to is Monster Hunter. You grab monsters, fling them, stab them, whatever you want. If they're too big for that, just climb up and start stabbing. With crispy clean combat system combined with a fairly robust vocation system, or class system if you're old head like me, the game can absolutely be built to suit your playstyles. Want to be a big dumb guy swinging the biggest sword in the world? Do it. Acrobatic archer? Fire away. Want to also have magic? Arcane archer. Want to be speedy and zoom around the battlefield? That's a rogue. Mage is priest. You can be any traditional RPG style character you want in this game. And that's where it shines. It is a shame it does not have an actual co-op, but honestly the game carries its weight just fine. Maybe someday when we get Dragon's Dogma 3, it'll follow in the footsteps of Granblue Fantasy Relink, but until then I'll have to settle with crawling into the Griffin's back on my lonesome. There's no way the Switch can hope to handle the game, but everyone else will get to play it March 22nd, so like, you have less than a month to beat Rebirth. Good luck, you might need to no-life it. Last but certainly not least is Black Myth Wukong. We actually have shockingly little information on the game, but we know it's a Souls-like game where you play as a legendary Son Wukong from the legend Journey to the West, which some might know from League of Legends, and also some of you might remember that Goku from Dragon Ball is loosely based on. This game will feature gigantic fights, fast-paced strike-dodge style gameplay, and a host of weird characters that most of us aren't used to because Chinese mythology is not as prominent in society as Japanese or British mythos are. As I said, we don't have tons and tons of info to go on unless you play the demo, which sadly I have not. But I will leave a link in the description of a channel who has so that you can see the gameplay for yourself. Just know it is not in English. And that's it, 13 games I'm looking forward to play and streaming in 2024. As the world burns around us and our future is never guaranteed, remember that for some of us, gaming is an important part of our lives and not just an escape from reality. I hope to see you in 2024 and keep gaming. Deuces, dummies.
And grow lotuses in it. That is your destiny.
I, the keeper of the New West, welcome the Destined One.
The Destined One who doesn't even know what he's destined for? Those old rascals, they surely know how to name.
Tell me then. Is my kind destined for extermination? You're driven by greed, not destiny.
So this is the face of the Destined One. It will fit me just as well.
Bathed in blood, yet preaching peace. Oh, you immortals, pray enlighten me. What justifies your superiority? sweet destiny.